Hey, sorry for delaying. Yeah, yeah. So, we'll continue the Camel EIP pattern today. Okay. So we have seen the Camel CBR, content-based routing, right? Uh, yeah. So we'll see today a split. We'll show one demo. So a split design pattern is also where you are splitting your incoming body message based on some new line or type character. You can split. Okay. Yeah. And then afterwards we have dynamic router actually. Okay, so dynamic router is something like you have to route your message to some other endpoint dynamically over the runtime environment. Runtime during runtime actually. So your endpoint will be changed based on the runtime. Like some header variable, you have created your new endpoint with some header variable, right? Let's say from $header dot user ID. So for each route, you will have the new route, right, for each user ID. So you are sending your incoming message to the all those endpoints, okay, dynamically. So what happen when you are sending your incoming message through some channel to some queue, and the router will be in mid, which will catch your incoming message, and it will send to the corresponding endpoint actually. You can define list of endpoint, or you can define the runtime endpoint also. Okay. So but what is the benefit of dynamic router? You have hundred of dynamic endpoint. Okay, let's say for example, but your routes get end of after only when you write from and to only, right? So your route is starting from and then to, then only it ends. So during this time, so whatever the message have been processed, right? So you need to check what are the message are pending, or is it still under execution? Okay. So for that we have some header that is called sleep endpoint actually. We called it sleep endpoint. Okay. So using that you can check, okay, in your exchange how far you have reached, whether A is incomplete or only BC is completed. Okay. So using you will have one header. You can check the this. I have one another demo actually. I will share that one in the other computer actually. So I will be sharing shortly that one. So this header you can check in your root and verify, okay, this what is the status of this root actually, whether it is null or not. Okay, so here to different to your root node, it can be different channel, it can be any endpoint, doesn't matter. Let's say this below you can see I'm reading some file from inbox folder, okay, and splitting it based on this token, and I have included dynamic router method from this class root class. Okay, so from this root it will be keep on executing until root is finished, right? Until root is finished. So you want to check in your bin class, like this is your root method, right? So you will have one header actually. This is your body message, and this is your sleep endpoint header actually. If previous root is equal to null, then return this. Else if body dot string equals return this. Okay, return this. Else return null. Okay, so likewise, this sleep endpoint will give you the flexibility when your endpoint, your exchange is going to finish actually. Okay, and then you can check if these are not null, it means your exchange is completed. Okay. Yeah, yes, yeah. So here, like you can just when you do this, in other way, what you can do here, you can read, you can print the header dot log dot sleep endpoint. You can print the this header, okay, and see the value. After this, you can print the header value of the sleep endpoint. So once it's completed, what is the value of this? You can see actually. So that is like over on the fly actually you can let's say with the help of sleep endpoint you caught this message one of body for this endpoint, okay, and you want to change the body for this or something you want to do, you can do this actually. Okay, so so recipient list next is recipient list. So so you let's say your message is coming to the recipient list and your message will be go to the different endpoint. The same message will go to the some different endpoint. Okay, one by one. So it's execute this, then execute this, then execute this sequentially. But there's a keyword multicast parallel execution. It's not only sequentially. You can default it sequentially, but you can make it multicast also. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Do parallel, yeah, yeah, parallel processing also you can do, yeah, sorry. You can do parallel processing. Instead of sequentially, you can do parallel processing also. And here you can define your endpoint like based on the, like you can define your endpoint like this also. Dynamically also you can define actually. So what were the value of header foo is there? That will be the endpoint actually. So diet colon B. So here you can write dollar header dot foo. So diet colon B you can write dollar header dot foo. So what were the value of foo? You can get the diet colon of that foo value. So it's a dynamically change actually recipient list. So over the let's say file processing. So each file name is different and you want to read it. So using recipient list you can do. So dollar diet column dollar file name header dot file name camel file name. So in camel the default header for file name is camel file name. So you can diet column dollar header dot camel file name you can give. Here it is constant, so that's the reason it's like this. But if you are not using constant expression, you can directly use the some expression header or property. Not only header, you can use property also. Okay. So this is called dynamic recipient list, and this is the recipient list, like where we have set of fixed endpoint, and this is the dynamic recipient endpoint, like where you can define your endpoint with some runtime variable, where variable will get stored during runtime. Okay. So in this, like we are just reading some message from a queue, JMS queue, and sending over this header endpoint actually. Okay. Okay, yeah. So there's some few more EIP patterns are there, so we will covering later. Before that, we need to know something because we have been writing all the root using some diet component like so it's necessary to know this now. You might have seen somewhere direct VM or direct hyphen VM, seda. So those things you might have observed. So those are the kind of endpoint actually, which we create using direct component. Okay. So what happen when you want to consume or produce some message synchronously. Okay. So you are expecting some response from the endpoint actually, and you are expecting some response. So you can go for direct component actually. Okay. Yeah, and it's within the same camel context, means within the same JVM on for single camel context. Okay. Uh, so internal implementation for it, it's using blocking queue. Okay. Until one succeed, it won't produce actually. So if some message is in queue, it's under processing, right? So it will block the producer. Okay. Until unless it gets finished, because it's a synchronous, right? It will execute one, then only it will process next. So it's a synchronous. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Yes. 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 It will wait. Yeah. Yeah. It will wait. So that is something like it's a single thread. You can assume in a one. Yes, one by one, like it will do. Okay. One by one. Multi-threading concept also you can include in some other way. We need to see that one later. Yeah. Okay. So likewise, we have the same way we have VM component. Okay. So this when you use VM component VM colon Q name. Okay. So it's for multiple camel context and asynchronous. So like if you are using planning for multi-thread, you can go for VM actually. Okay. So better go for VM. So it's asynchronous. It won't wait for response actually. It will send and yeah, forget. Fire and forget mechanism. You can think fire and forget. So it's not only within the same camel context. Let's say I have two applications, application one and application two, and I am thinking to call the root from application one to application 2 root. So in that case, it's a different camel context, right? So you can go for VM actually. Let's say you have two application, application 1 and application 2, and both have exposed some root endpoint. So some root they have, root 1 and root 2, let's say. So you want to communicate between these two root, right? Root 1 and root 2. So in that case, you go for VM, because if you use direct, it won't be able to send the message in different camel context, because application get load in their own